Imagine the scarlet blur of a Ferrari bursting from the Imola pit lane, while grandstands shimmer under a storm of red flares. Inside sits Lewis Hamilton, visor down, pulse steady, and fully aware that the next 90 minutes could rescue or ruin the boldest gamble of his career. Since trading Mercedes silver for Ferrari red, he has known only sliding tyres, exasperated radio calls, and the anonymity of midfield traffic. Yet Maranello's engineers insist those days end here. Buried beneath the SF25's bodywork is a radical upgrade that promises grip, balance, and the return of Hamilton's fabled qualifying magic. If it sings, the seven-time champion's title hopes are reborn. If it stumbles, his legend risks becoming a cautionary tale. The grid is forming, the pressure is ferocious, and everything depends on the choices made over the next 2 weekends. Heartbreak arrived early. Bahrain's abrasive surface chewed Hamilton's tyres within 10 laps, forcing him to tiptoe, while Red Bull danced off into the desert haze. Shanghai teased redemption. A slick sprint win on Saturday, then a freefall to 7th 24 hours later as sudden oversteer turned every right-hander into a coin toss. Jeddah delivered the cruelest blow. Leclerc hustled to the podium while Hamilton wrestled a skid-happy rear end, finishing half a minute adrift and half a second slower per lap. Engineers labelled the SF25 knife-edged. Hamilton called it undrivable. Whatever the language, the car punished late braking, devoured rear rubber, and turned qualifying into damage control. By the end of 3 races, the superstar hire sat 7th in the standings, and the paddock was asking whether Ferrari had learned anything from last year's pain. But behind closed doors, something was stirring. When teams flew home, Ferrari's wind tunnels kept howling. Flovis paint revealed chaotic vortices bleeding from floor edges and starving the diffuser. High-speed cameras caught the rear wings stalling under throttle. The cure was more resurrection than revision. Aerodynamicists sculpted deeper forward tunnels, added a stepped lip to energize diffuser flow, and carved a graceful waterfall beam wing to shave drag without surrendering stability. CFD predicted 14 kilograms of extra downforce with no penalty on the straights. Engineers even repitched rear suspension geometry to keep the aeromap stable as fuel loads fell. Hamilton watched the numbers climb, but numbers mean little until rubber hits asphalt. Ferrari needed the right moment to roll the dice, and that moment was not Miami. Glamour, yachts, celebrity selfies. The Miami Grand Prix is the very next stop, and it offers all of that plus a Saturday sprint to dominate highlight reels. From a development standpoint, however, the event is a trap. Sprint weekends grant just 1 hour of practice before Parc Fermé locks every setting for the remainder of the weekend. Unleash an unproven flaw in Florida, and the team could spend 3 days in firefighting mode with no legal path to revert. Ferrari's hierarchy, still scarred by 2023's one-setup-fits-none fiascos, vetoed the risk. Their plan is simple. Run the current spec in Miami, gather baseline tyre data, then truck the full upgrade to Europe. Imola sits a fortnight later, boasting 3 practice sessions, familiar curbs, and a factory barely 2 hours away for emergency parts. Some pundits call the strategy overcautious. Inside Maranello, it feels surgical. Skip the party, double the data, and hit the upgrade with every sensor the regulations allow. If patience delivers a breakthrough, nobody will remember the selfies they skipped. Ferrari's Sunday pace shadows McLaren's, yet grid slots read P9, P6, P8. Numbers that force Hamilton to burn tyres behind slower cars while Red Bull escapes in clean air. Dirty turbulence ruins apex speeds, overheats tyres, and strangles strategic creativity. The Imola package targets that choke point. Sim runs predict a rear end that stays planted under heavy braking, letting Hamilton release the brake 4 meters later into Tamburello, hold apex speed through Villeneuve, and unleash power early without lighting the rears. A 2/10 gain over 1 lap would shift him from row 4 to row 2. 3/10 gifts a shot at pole. Friday evening's qualifying rehearsal will be the first verdict, and one purple sector will decide whether Ferrari fights at the front or fades in traffic again. If the stopwatch stays cruel, the stakes jump even higher. For Hamilton, 2025 is a referendum on greatness. Walking away from Mercedes looked heroic, but legends are crowned by outcomes, not sentiment. Fail to reach regular podiums and whispers will grow. The champion chased nostalgia and traded trophies for romance. For Ferrari, the cost of failure is deeper. 15 seasons without a driver's crown have corroded an aura that once rattled rivals before the lights even flickered. Hiring a 7-time champion was a declaration that compromise was over. The target is nothing less than a world title. If the partnership stalls, repercussions will reach sponsor boardrooms, recruitment pipelines, and every mechanic who sweated through winter believing this was the year. Maranello thrives on pressure, but combine it with Hamilton's personal sky-high standards and the margin for error shrinks to millimetres. One clean weekend could silence doubters and recharge morale, yet one more disaster could turn confidence into chaos. Ferrari's sporting director avoids grandiose promises. He defines success by 3 benchmarks. Proximity. Hamilton must qualify within 1/10 of Leclerc, and at least one McLaren or Red Bull, proving the concept works across driving styles. Stability. Tyre wear must track the projection curve, avoiding the sudden deltas that torpedoed strategy in Bahrain and Jeddah. Morale. Hamilton needs to speak the calm language of lap time deltas instead of the exasperated tone fans heard in Saudi Arabia. Hit all 3, and podiums become routine, unlocking budget for further upgrades before Barcelona. Miss any, and championship talk dies before Monza's anthem even plays. Numbers matter, but emotion matters more. Hamilton, at peace with his machinery, is still one of the deadliest forces in motorsport. 2 hourglasses drain in parallel. One counts down to the 2026 technical freeze, when fresh regulations will lock every team's development path. Every euro spent now steals from tomorrow. The other measures Hamilton's patience. Each weekend, Leclerc finishes 30 seconds ahead, shortens both timers. Should Imola disappoint? Expect headlines questioning Ferrari's wind tunnel correlation, the rear suspension concept, and Hamilton's private regrets. Stress fractures seldom appear on camera, yet wrong results can split departments, drain confidence, and send star engineers checking LinkedIn at midnight. The margins are that thin, and the clocks refuse to pause. Engines fire, and the Autodromo Enzo, a Dino Ferrari, hums like a giant tuning fork beneath Emilia-Romagna's spring sky. Children in vintage Schumacher caps press against the fences, hoping to witness a rebirth. Rolling toward the grid is a Ferrari carrying a redesigned floor, a smarter diffuser, sleeker wings, and the intertwined hopes of millions. If the upgrade delivers, Hamilton's radio will crackle with the laughter last heard in his Mercedes heyday, and scarlet-clad fans will flood the track like it's 2004. If it fails, an uneasy silence will smother even the roar of V6 hybrids. 90 racing minutes and a sprint in Miami stand between redemption and regret. The wheel turns, the lights go out, and the whole world is watching.